We're not on live right now. Zoom can hear. No, I'm microphone. I can hear it here, but it's not coming through to the stream. Just a second.
Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Through the 2021-2031 strategic plan of the NPCA, we reconfirm our commitment to shared stewardship of natural resources and deep appreciation of Indigenous culture and history in the watershed. Mr. Bival, could you please do the roll call?
Most certainly. Good morning, everyone. We're looking for attendance from Member Clark. Member Cridland?
Present.
Member Grant? See him online. Member Hewson?
Present.
Member Metcalf?
Present.
We have regrets from Member O'Neill, Member Seaborn,
Present.
and Member Taddison.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. Approval of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda and or additions to our drinking water source protection agenda? Seeing none. Mr. Metcalf, can you move that we accept the agenda? And Ms. Seaborn, could you second that, please?
I so move.
Yep, thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none. Declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any this morning? Our next item is the approval of the minutes. Can I get Member Cridland to move that we approve the minutes of the Source Protection Authority meeting dated February the 17th, 2023? And Member Grant, could you please second that? Any questions to the minutes? Hearing none. All those opposed to us accepting this? Let us move on to correspondence, which we have none. Presentations, none. Delegations, none. Consent items, none. So we have one discussion item this morning. It's report number SPA 0123, the 2022 Drinking Water Source Protection Annual Progress Reporting. Thomas, do you have any comments on this report?
Good morning. Can everyone hear and see me? Okay, excellent. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a presentation. It's I understand that for some of the members here, it might be new, but basically this is the requirement of the Clean Water Act, where we have to submit an annual progress report to the Ministry of Environment on an annual basis, outlining our progress for the implementation of our source protection plan. The source protection plan has been in effect since about 2014, and it hasn't been updated since. We are working on that, which I believe you guys were covered in our last meeting that we had of the Source Protection Authority, which was in February. And so until that time that it gets updated, basically all the policies that we have in the source protection plan are fully implemented, and they have been for quite a few years, and they continue to do so. So we are just continually monitoring that and making sure that the implementers of the source protection plan are, implementing the policies that are directed at them, and we continue to be fully implemented. And so the annual progress report that's before you right now is just a summary of that, and all of the requirements that the ministry requires from us to report to them, all contained in that nice big package. But if there's any questions pertaining to it specifically, I'm happy to answer them. But we continue to be fully implemented until the time comes that we update our source protection plan and add the new policies.
Great, thank you, Thomas. We'll put it on the floor. Can I get Member Hewson to move that we approve this report? Member Metcalf, would you please second that? So any questions to the report? Hearing or seeing none, any who are opposed to us accepting this report or approving this report? That is carried. And with that, does anybody have any new business they wish to bring up this morning? Seeing none, and we have no closed session, so I'm going to adjourn our drinking water source protection meeting. Thank you very much. And now that leads us into our next meeting this morning. So good morning and welcome to our NPCA Board of Directors meeting, again for this April the 21st, 2023. And we will do a call to order. And Mr. Bival, could you please do the roll call again, please?
Most certainly. We're looking for attendance from Member Clark, Member Cridland.
Here.
Member Grant. I see him online. Member Hewson.
Present.
Member Metcalf.
Present.
We have regrets from Member O'Neill. Member Seaborn.
Present.
Member Taddison.
Present.
And of course, Chair Foster.
Yes, I'm present. I am also present. We will do the land acknowledgement. The Niagara Peninsula watershed is situated within traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Attawandaronk, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties number 3, 4, and 381, and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the watershed is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Through the 2021 to 2031 strategic plan of the NPCA, we reconfirm our commitment to shared stewardship of natural resources and the deep appreciation of Indigenous culture and history in the watershed. The agenda is before you. Is there any changes or additions anybody has to the agenda? And I see Mr. Bival has his hand on this. Please go ahead.
Yes, folks, we do have a presentation from the auditors today, so we'd like to move the corresponding committee report, that's FA 13-23, and it's agenda item 10.1.1. We'd like to move that to occur immediately after the presentation by Mr. Marks.
Is there any other changes that anyone would like to make this morning? Seeing none, can I get Member Metcalf and Member Seaborn to move and second the approving the agenda as amended. Anyone opposed to us with that agenda? Seeing or hearing none, let us move into the declarations of conflict of interest. Does anyone have any today? Hearing none, let us move on to the approval of minutes. Just a second here. Can I get Member Cridlin to move that we accept the minutes dated March the 24th, 2031, and the minutes of the closed session dated March the 24th, 2031, 2023. Yeah, okay. Okay. Oh yeah, it's not 2021, is it? No, anyway. Member Cridlin has moved that. Member Grant, can I get you to second that, please? I'm going to go to Member Houston. Could you second that, as I did not hear Member Grant? So.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Member Houston. Anyone opposed to us accepting the minutes? Let us move into our next item, which is the chair's update. Don't have a lot to add today, other than very proud of our CAO, who's now on the Board of Directors for Conservation Ontario. I was very pleased to be at the Conservation Ontario AGM when Chandra was brought on board. Very good for Conservation Ontario. If she does the same great job for them as she has done for us, we are in a good spot. I've also been on a couple of meetings this week. One was with Aird Bearless, talking about the conservation changes that are going into play in and around the legislation from the province. And also I was on the Conservation Ontario AMO meeting the other day as well. Lots of good information that's out there. Stay tuned. Things are a-changing, and we will see as we work through all of these things. So. Oh, yeah, please go ahead if you wish.
Chair, if I may, through you, we have one staff introduction for this morning. Our new manager of strategic business planning and public relations, Jeffrey Sinibaldi, is here. Jeffrey, say good morning, and if you wanted to introduce yourself, we are really pleased to have him. He comes to us from the federal government. Over to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, CAO Sharma. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you. I'm now in week 3. So I'm still sticking around. I'm originally from the Niagara region. I was born and raised in Welland, Ontario. Then I did a couple gigs with the federal government, with the Food Inspection Agency when I graduated. Then I did 10 years at Brock University as a manager of media relations there. Oversaw some, there's a lot of significant changes during that time, the Bold New Brock campaign. And then I spent the last 8 years with Parks Canada at the Rouge National Urban Park, the first national urban park in Canada. Project of a lifetime, but the opportunity to come back home and make significant, have a significant impact and work with the fantastic people here with the NPCA. It's just an opportunity that I could not resist, and I'm looking really forward to working with all of you and hoping that my team and my colleagues, we can help to advance this excellent strategic plan that we have, this fantastic roadmap for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. It's good to have you on board. You're good to go? Okay, good. Let us move into our next section of the agenda, and that is our correspondence section. We have 2 items of correspondence that have come through to us that we are going to receive. Member Caddison, can I get you to move that we receive these 2 items of correspondence? And Member Seaborn, can I get you to second that, please? Are there any questions to either one of these items of correspondence this morning? Hearing none, anyone who is opposed to us receiving these? We shall move on to our next item, which is delegations, which we have none. And now we're going to move into presentations. So we do have two presentations this morning. The first is going to be from David Marks. He's a partner and the person doing our auditing for us from KPMG. The second one is going to be from Angela Coleman, and we will introduce Angela after that, after we deal with the audit and also our report that goes along with that. So with that, Mr. Marks.
Yes, great. Thank you very much for having me here today. And if you would like, I can share my screen just relatively briefly so that you can see what I am talking about as we go through. My apologies if I'm looking off to the side. That's where my second screen is, so I will be looking there here and there. I would say at this point in time, we are in the position where we are ready to issue our audit opinion on the financial statements of the organization. The last hurdle that we need to have is the approval at the board of directors, which is the intention of the presentation here today, and then obviously a motion that would happen by the board. With that, we'll be able to issue our clean or unqualified audit opinion on the organization, which essentially says that the organization has accurately recorded the transaction of the business and in accordance with the accounting framework that the organization has adopted. We have had our discussions with the audit committee back in at the beginning of April. I believe that is Appendix 2 to your package. I won't go through the report, but it's there for your reference. But we did go through that report with the audit committee, detailing out the results of our audit. And in summary, ultimately, there's nothing that needs to be brought to the attention of this group as the board of directors, other than we're in the position to be able to issue our audit. Okay, I will briefly go through the financial statements at a very high level, just to let you know. So the first page that we have here, first 3 pages are our audit opinion. As I said, it will be a clean or unqualified opinion dated today, which will be the approval date. Ultimately, it does say what management's responsibilities for and yours as those charged with governance responsibilities for the financial statements are, as well as our responsibilities as auditors, obviously to verify and test and ensure that the financial statements are fairly presented, okay, which they are. As we move to the statement of financial position, and maybe I'll try to make this a little bit bigger for you so that you can see that. This is the balance sheet statement of financial position. It details out all the assets and liabilities that the organization has. You can see that the organization is in good financial health. Assets are, current assets and the assets that are available for, operations, so to speak, are greater than the liabilities needed to fund those operations at this point in time, which is December 31st, 2022. You can see there's tangible capital assets, the assets that the organization has, and then the overall accumulated surplus that exists for the organization. Okay, obviously some changes here and there, due to operations from one period to the next, but overall a very strong position for the balance sheet. Okay, as we move down to the statement of operations and accumulated surplus, this contains all the revenues and expenses of the organization. The revenues are up in this top section. You can see some increase from in revenues over the last couple of years, primarily in the user fees, and then some other funding that was received by the organization during the course of the year. Expenses are greater than previous year, but relatively in line with the budget that was passed by the organization. So no concerns there. The financial statements and the revenues and expenses, and the expenses in particular, are grouped this year in 4 different categories. In the previous year, they were in 3 categories. Management had adopted a new presentation that they believe is more suited for the organization on a going forward basis. The comparative information has been reflected accordingly to conform with the presentation adopted in the current year. Okay, you can see the annual surplus for the year, is $1.3 million. That is net income that was generated, and again, that is above the budget for the year. Okay. Moving on to the next statement that is really relevant, statement of cash flows. This shows the operations and how cash is utilized during the course of the year for the organization. So you can see from operations, there was cash of $3.2 million generated through the operations, and that was used on various activities. So primarily capital purchases that were made in the course of the year of about $3.9 million. And then we've got some changes in investments. Those are just the investments kind of rolling over from year to year. Some large numbers, but net to fairly insignificant amounts in the course of the year. Okay, so cash did decrease as a result of that, where capital assets were essentially that were purchased were greater than the funds coming in. But as I was saying, on the balance sheet or the statement of financial position, the organization's in a healthy spot where they're able to fund those accordingly. Okay. The rest of the financial statement notes have been updated accordingly based on the transactions of the organization. Nothing in particular there to note, for this group. And as I said, we have had the discussions with the audit committee about the results of the audit, as well as discussions on the financial statement. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and pause and send it back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And what I'm going to do is I am going to ask that we put 10.1.1 on the floor at this point to go along with your presentation. And so I'd like Councillor Hewson, could you please move that we put this report onto the floor? And as well, Member Metcalf, could you second that, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So questions to either David or to Lise on these audited financial reports? And I am not hearing anything, which is a good sign. And we did have a very thorough discussion at the Finance Committee, I might add as well, on these particular reports. So with that, I'm going to ask, is anyone opposed to us approving this financial audit report? And with that, David, thank you very much. That's a great report, and thank you for taking us through this again.
Not a problem. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Let's move to our next presentation this morning. And so I have a bio for somebody at this point. So first of all, we're really pleased this morning to have Angela Coleman here this morning. She is the General Manager of Conservation Ontario. She was appointed to that position in September of 2022. She came to Conservation Ontario from the South Nation Conservation Authority in Finch, Ontario, where she was the CAO. When she joined the South Nation Conservation Authority in 2002, and before that, she had held various roles ranging from communications coordinator to project manager. Ms. Coleman graduated from the Faculty of Law at the University of Ottawa in 2009. I don't hold that against her, she's a lawyer. and was admitted to the bar of the province of Ontario in 2010. She teaches the municipal law program for the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, and so you're working with Dave with that, and speaks on a variety of municipal property and governance topics to a wide range of audiences. Ms. Coleman has also been a director and volunteer with many community groups and associations. And outside of work, Ms. Coleman currently owns and operates Sand Road Maple Farm in Moose Creek, Ontario with her husband, Scott. And with that, Angela, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Foster, and members of the board, CAO Sharma. Thank you so much for the invitation today. And I do know this morning there's probably a number of people online watching as well. So to members of the public, staff, guests, and others, thank you again for the opportunity this morning. I do think there is probably a presentation somewhere on deck, but whether or not that comes up, I'll probably be able to speak at the microphone with or without it. I think, first of all, thank you for the bio and introduction, but most importantly, overall, I think in taking this role, my roles over the years have generally been to work directly at the local level, helping people solve challenging issues as they work their way through. So whether that was as a lawyer or as someone working with the Conservation Authority on a myriad of different issues, it's always been sort of my proposition that my best way to bring value is to work directly with community members on challenging issues. So with that, you know, we are at this particular time in conservation, there's a lot of work we have to do, and many of you will have, please bear with me if you've already seen me speak this week at different webinars. Probably many of you have had, I think more than enough of Angela Coleman for an hour. You know, an hour of Angela Coleman's probably enough in any given week. But I mean, really and truly, you know, the ability and the privilege to serve in this particular role at this particular time is something I take, you know, very seriously, and something I'm very proud to be able to help our, not only our municipalities, but our Conservation Authority communities to do. Coming to Niagara this morning, you know, as you get to travel the province, what a beautiful region you have here, what a beautiful natural asset you have here, and what a number of opportunities you have in this particular area. And I think the Conservation Authority here at Niagara Peninsula itself is representative of that. You've worked so hard over a number of years to get in place effective strategic plans and effective leadership to move you into the next chapter. And I think that's so important for this Conservation Authority and conservation authorities across the board. It's that ability to hear feedback, hear meaningful sort of suggestions, and being able to implement those for effective change. And I think you've done so well as a board and a staff in terms of being able to do that. So this morning, I really just wanted to bring words of welcome from Conservation Ontario, but also to bring messages about why it's so important to work together at this difficult and challenging time. And not everything about it is actually difficult and challenging. I should say that too. There's a lot of opportunities here. And as I gave the AMO podcast or AMO session earlier this week, my messaging, while it seemed there was a lot of work to do, the real part of my job that I love is that my messaging is really about, so let's get started, right? So let's get started. And I think that that's absolutely essential. And I do want to, you know, commend the leadership here at NPCA. I think through CAO Sharma, you have a fantastic opportunity and a new chapter as you set forward. The staff have done incredible work. And driving up your board meeting here this morning, you've got a state-of-the-art facility, an absolutely beautiful legacy property that's been entrusted to the Conservation Authority to care for. And so what a good opportunity to do meaningful work in your own communities, and at the same time, generate good jobs, economic benefits, and have all of those positive spin-offs that people are counting on us to provide. So I think, you know, in terms of our work with municipalities, that's great work, and it's work we need to continue, and it's where the dialogue needs to be. We also have excellent partnerships with a number of people in our communities, and that is where I've started with conservation authorities all the way to working here. We have excellent support from environmental groups in the community. We have good support and partnerships working with agricultural groups in the community to deliver, good programs and services and showcase really good work that's happening in our communities. And I think that you have the values that you're bringing to this board and the values that mean, on a go-forward basis, that you're showing support in your strategic plan and you're working together with the staff to make sure you're representing the values of your community have. Appreciating, it's a huge amount of work to keep going and to do all of that. And you're in an area of the province where certainly I'm sure you're going to have lots of opportunities for growth and development as well. So it always is about balancing those needs in any given community. So I think my message this morning, in addition to giving you an overview from Conservation Ontario in terms of what we do and the programs and services that we provide, is simply, I think you have the leadership in place, you have the plan in place, you have the governance and structures in place. So now all that remains is all the hard work where you go out, you have the conversations, and you figure out what's the best way to serve and what's the best way to come together and deliver all of these important programs and services. So on behalf of Conservation Ontario, quickly, we've been working hard at a challenging time to keep the dialogue open. Next slide, please. The work that we do, is work that's important to make sure. I did bring copies of our annual report for any of you who wish to see it. Next slide. Having just begun the role in September, I do want to thank all of the people that have entrusted Conservation Ontario to be out negotiating on behalf of your work. And as I mentioned, it is all about making sure we're having positive discussions in the community and as many agreements are being discussed and negotiated. We really have been bringing value for over 75 years, and at this time, it's really, really essential that we keep having those discussions and making sure that everybody knows how important the work conservation authorities do is. In my early months, I've had the opportunity to speak to the province of British Columbia, other areas where they've been devastated by floods and events, have the opportunity to have discussions with insurance and other industries. It's absolutely such a good value and cost savings, the work that conservation authorities do, and I think it's important that we keep those messages front and center. Next slide, please. The other work that I think is essential, and again, it's the driving up here, you see the signs, you see the incredible conservation areas that we're providing to the public. You see the trees that are planted on the ground and in the landscape in our communities. It's about remembering how valuable the conservation authorities' boots on the ground are in our communities. And, in my time coming from largely an agricultural watershed, we've had, a multi-million-dollar clean water program over the years, just excellent working relationships. And when you have good conversations, you find that the spectrums of agreement, you can come closer together. I think environment is something that often people want to put on polar ends of a spectrum of agreement, but it's about coming together and the work that we do to mediate that work and to have those discussions that make sure that we can balance the needs of our communities in a meaningful way. And I think conservation authorities, through their staff, through their board, do an excellent job of that. Next slide. And of course, I'm simplifying this because who wants to listen to a long presentation? But many of you know there's 36 conservation authorities across the province. That means that there's 36 times all of the municipalities times all of the issues within those communities. And that's what we do at Conservation Ontario, just helping everybody work through that. And of course, since the late fall of 2022, we've been busy with a lot of submissions that have come out under a number of pieces of legislation, much like the municipalities have been. Next slide. And some of the more I think impressive work that's come out of Conservation Ontario as of lately has been, a lot of really excellent opportunities at the federal level that we've been able to generate. And I do know that here at NPCA, I was just
there's no docking station at this one?
Sorry, signing an agreement. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm not sure if there's a little bit of feedback, but
You could just log in.
Or I think Stuart has his mic on. There you go.
Thanks. Sounds good. So, in sort of getting close to wrapping up anyways, there's some good funding coming to Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority from some federal funds that Conservation Ontario has been successful in securing, and we look forward to continue to work on those negotiations, provide excellent opportunities for the conservation authorities across the province, and I know I certainly value so much the ability to come out and talk to, each and every board that will have us come out and speak, because it is such an important time. And I guess my final, and next slide, my last and sort of final request is, we know that you are all busy in terms of the work that you do and the time that you have available, but it's certainly an important time in conservation, so any value that you can add, that's sort of my purpose, is to provide any value that I can add. And so the support that you provide, I think, is very important as we try to ensure that the next 75 years of conservation can be as fruitful as the first 75. So with that, I will be pleased to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you very much, Anne. Any questions from any members of our board at this point? Just a couple of comments from me. I was very impressed being at the Conservation Ontario AGM, and the group that you have and that you're working with are top-notch, and we're very happy to be part of that. Lots of good information and lots of good things are being done by Conservation Ontario on our behalf, and I was just thinking of the fact that you're dealing with 36 differing conservation areas. We have 41 differing areas within our watershed, and each one of them is somewhat unique as well. So I'm assuming that it is a bit of a challenge at times as you're going through with this. Your view on what's happening at the provincial level. I know you gave a presentation the other day. Are we done with the changes coming down the road? Are we not done? And how are we positioned as conservation authorities, particularly with Conservation Ontario, to work through this?
Make sure I get my mic. There we go. Thanks for the question, Chair Foster. I do think, we are, as discussed in part of the presentation, the purpose of the presentation with AMO and Conservation Ontario the other day, is to suggest, there's a lot of opportunities at the local level to figure out the best way forward, but we all have to be having those conversations. And that's the ultimate message that I wanted to leave everyone with. I think there's a couple of things, and I've said it, these are nonpartisan comments, and I think these are the comments I have generally. There are opportunities for improvement, and everyone needs to be mindful of where those opportunities are. We do have to work towards opportunities and modernization, like every level of government, including municipalities and including conservation authorities. So there are opportunities there. We do have to, again, peppered through my comments today, we do have to find a balance for the development pressures that we will see and the environmental level of program services protections that the public in the year 2023 expect. So I think that will be a complicated balancing act. And I think some of those things are now perhaps left with the municipality, but the municipality should feel that they still have the support of their conservation authorities. So that's why you do have to have those conversations. Again, same comments I made the other day, we do have to work within the constraints that we are working within, but at the local level, I do believe that's where a lot of really good decision making happens, and that's my sort of value and my reason I've chose to serve in this role, is simply to be a facilitator, a conduit, and somebody I hope that brings practical common sense to the discussions that have to happen. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We're very fortunate on our Conservation Authority board here. Member Hewson is the chair of Planning and Economic Development at Niagara Region as well. So an awful lot of the discussions that are going on between Conservation Authority, between municipalities, and how we're all going to make this work, I think we're in pretty good hands. And I know our CAO has been actively in discussions with CAOs in and across our area, so lots of challenges. Any other questions from anyone at this point? Seeing none, Angela, thank you very much for...
Chair
go
Foster,
ahead,
I
John.
see that Member Taddison has a hand up on his screen there.
Oh, okay. There we go. Here in just a second here.
I'm good to go if you're ready.
Yep. Member Caddison, please go ahead. Yep.
Okay, thanks. I just have a question in regards to a requirement by the Ontario government to have 70% of all conservation boards have to be, 70% of that membership has to be elected officials. And you said there's 26 conservation authorities across Ontario, and I was wondering how many of those are not compliant with that 70% requirement for membership. Do you know about that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So 36 conservation authorities.
Oh, 36.
No worries. 36 across Ontario. Each board having a composition made up of however many members as required by legislation, orders in council, and so forth. As you know, election happened late in the end of 2022. Following election of 2022, many councils were making their membership appointments, etc. Some of those sort of still going in up until February of 2023. How many are not compliant? I am unaware. I'm not aware of exactly how many would not meet the current requirement. Because there's not actually an active stat on that, and all decisions have not been rendered on that. So status of, for example, a request made by municipality X in June of 2020, or sorry, maybe in February of 2023, decisions have not been rendered on all of those, and those decisions are of course coming from the provincial ministries. So difficult to say exactly, good question. But there's not a lot, there's not everyone has asked for those exemptions either. Some have followed the 70% rule. I expect to keep an eye on it. I'm keeping an eye on it, but I don't have the number right today.
I just bring that issue forward because in different conservation authorities, you have a lot of great volunteer membership from the community, and that's being occluded, I guess, or because you don't have the correct number, right? So if you have 5 and 5 sitting currently, now you have to put 7 elected members, and then you're going to probably lose 2 or 3 of the community members who have a real passion for it. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Caddison. With that, thank you very much. I'm going to ask that Member Caddison move that we receive Angela's presentation, and Member Cridland, could you second that, please? Anyone opposed to us receiving that? Hearing none, thank you. Let us move into our consent items this morning. We do have 4 reports for consent. Member Hewson, can I get you to move that we receive these 4 reports? And yep. Yes, thank you. And Member Caddison, can I get you to second that, please? See there, yes, he is. Good. Are there any questions to any of these reports that are in front of us in our consent agenda? Hearing none. Anyone opposed to us? Please go ahead, Member Cridland.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just highlighting, obviously, all the good work that's represented in the reports, but on report 8.1, where it is our update and how well we're doing on that part of it, I just want to be reassured that we're not needing to do anything for extensions at this time, and that we don't put a placeholder for extensions. But it's addressed in the report, so it's just one other reassurance that we're okay with our staffing levels on meeting our deadlines for that quarterly report. That's 8.1.
CEO Sharma? Yep. The answer was yes, by the way, if everybody missed that. Is there anyone opposed to us receiving these 4 reports? Hearing none, let us move on to our discussion items this morning. So, first discussion item is report number FA 1223 concerning the 2023 operating and capital budgets and underlining final. So, Ms. Gagnon, any comments on this?
Thank you, Chair Foster. I'm happy to provide a high-level summary for members if you wish me to proceed.
Please do.
So this is a regular report that comes to the board on an annual basis, and so essentially on November 18th, the 2023 municipal levy operating and capital budgets came to the board for review and discussion. The resolution that was passed at that time was that staff was approved to take the budgets forward to our municipal partners for discussion, and subsequent to that, the municipal partners bring these budgets and levy documents forward to council for a discussion and approval. And so staff has been directed by the board to come back to the board with the result of those discussions and negotiations. And so that is essentially at the core of what this report is doing. So municipal council approvals for the 2023 levies, operating and capital budgets were secured with Niagara Region on the 23rd of February 2023, the City of Hamilton on the 29th of March, and the County of Haldimand on the 3rd of March. So this report also brings forward and requesting approval on reserve allocations for 2023. So that's for capital and operating in accordance with the reserves policy approved by this board in 2020. So the reserve allocations, so the general operating reserve, staff is recommending a $250,000 allocation to the asset management capital planning subset of the operating reserve. The general capital reserve in the amount of $606,012. This is to complete board-approved capital projects that are multi-year. And finally, the restoration reserve in the amount of $97,520. This is board-approved restoration projects that needed to be carried forward to 2023 for various reasons, weather being one of the primary issues. Pardon me. So then the last piece for this report is that of the 2023 unfunded budget priorities. So this listing comes forward to the board with items and issues that are not able to be accommodated in the current financial environment, and the board approval is sought so that if funding opportunities arise throughout the year, we are able to take advantage and complete some of these projects. And that's been very useful to us in the past, so we are continuing to do so on an annual basis. Chair Foster, that's it for my summary. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Lise. Just to let our members know, we are about to run into a problem. I believe Member Taddison and Member Hewson both have to leave at 10 o'clock for other items, and we are going to be in a quorum problem after that. So we'll try and get through these reports relatively quickly so that we get the ones that we have to approve out of the way before this change is over. So are there any questions to Lise on the operating and capital budget's final report? Seeing none, can I get Member Seaborn to move and Member Metcalf to second that we approve that report. Is anyone opposed to us approving that report? Thank you. Let's move on to our next item, which is the NPCA Public Advisory Committee, member recruitment and appointment. This is for approval, and it's been provided under other cover, under separate cover. Do you wish to speak to this? No. So, are there any questions to this report from any members of committee? Can I get Member Cattison to move that we receive or actually approve this report, and Member Cridlin to second that, please? Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to us approving this? Hearing or seeing none, let's move on to our next report, which is the 2022 Restoration Program highlights and 2023 Restoration Project approvals. Any questions to this report? Can I get Member Seaborn to move that we approve this report? And Member Metcalf, can you second that, please? Thank you. Is there anyone opposed to us approving this report? Hearing or seeing none, thank you. It is unfortunate, by the way, that it's almost, we're not doing enough justice to the timing on this, but we are running into a few problems this morning. We do have the committee reports that are coming into play at this point. So the first one we've already dealt with, which is the audited financial report. We do have the procurement activity report. Does anybody have any questions on the procurement activity report? By the way, if there is, we could defer that to the next meeting, or at least have that report show up again at the next meeting if people do have subsequent items. Member Cridland.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Foster, I could just remind members that both of those reports have gone through the Finance Committee and been recommended as well for the decision today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Member Cridland's the chair of that committee, so she knows what she speaketh of. So can I get to Member Cridland to move that we approve or receive this report? Member Metcalf, could you second that, please? Is there anyone opposed to us receiving that report? Hearing or seeing none? Yes. Actually below. We're now into... Oh, yes, that's true. I do apologize. So now we have the overall minutes of the Finance Committee meeting. So I'll have Member Cridland move that we approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting. And Member Seaborn, could you second that, please? Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing or hearing none, anyone opposed to us approving these minutes? Next is the Governance Committee. Now, we had a bit of a problem as we did not have quorum at our Governance Committee meeting. And so there are a number of items that are on here that haven't been discussed at committee yet, which is, again, unfortunate. Here, just one moment. In discussion with the CAO, there is one report in this that Chandra would like to speak to, and that's the Conservation Authority Act, Section 28 and Section 29 regulations update. So with that, Chandra, please go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I would like to direct it to Director Yates.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, this microphone is. Can you hear me?
Better? Yes, thank you. Thank you, CAO Sharma. As you know, on April 6th, there was 2 other pieces of proposed legislative changes that were introduced by the province, where there may be concerns from a conservation authority's perspective. One is a proposed provincial planning statement, which is a combination of the current provincial policy statement and growth plan policies, and combining those together. With that proposal and the report that we've provided, we're still reviewing it for comments. Comments are due June 6th. However, I did highlight some areas that may be of a concern to us as a conservation authority, and also conservation authorities across Ontario. And at this time, within that, there was no new policies related to natural heritage. Those are going to be introduced through a separate Environmental Registry of Ontario posting. And that's of interest to us because in the Bill 23 and other related proposals at the time, there were proposed changes to definitions of watercourses. And of course, we're eager to see any further changes as it relates to wetlands. So we will be monitoring that. As it relates to our mandate on natural hazards, it's clear that that remains a key focus within the legislation, protection of people and property, which is good. The section on natural hazards, for the most part, remains unchanged, which is also good, with a focus on collaboration between municipalities, conservation authorities, and other approval authorities. So we are seeing some positives in these changes, but we will review it in more detail and bring forward comments that we may have to the board, and also provide through Conservation Ontario. The other piece that was brought forward is Bill 97, that had several proposed amendments affecting the Planning Act, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing Act, and other legislation. And I highlighted some areas as a result of that may be of interest to us. One area in particular is, it looks like there'd be sort of increased responsibilities that the minister could impose as a result of that. Some additional authority that they may have in decision making, which I've outlined. So I've highlighted those for you today. We are taking a look at it in more detail. It's important to note that our Section 28 regulation has not come out yet. We are still anticipating that this year. Or the enactment of those Conservation Authorities Act amendments that would affect our Section 28 and Section 29, which is our park enforcement policies. So those are still forthcoming. So as the discussion was earlier today through Angela's presentation, we are in a flux of change, but also we are addressing it, we are monitoring it with our Conservation Authority partners and our municipal partners, and we will position ourselves well for when that change occurs. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Leilani, and we'll put the report on the floor. Member Taddison, can I get you to move that we approve this report? And Member Hewson, can I get you? Oh, she's gone already. Member Seaborn, can I get you to second that? So go ahead, Member Seaborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our speaker. I think some of us were first introduced to the proposed provincial planning statement at last night's meeting, and I really don't think it was a very well thought out piece of statements right now. My biggest concern is how it pertains to agriculture. Now, I know we're all taking care of things with the with this group, but agriculture plays a big portion when it comes to taking care of the properties. Farmers, for a big part, are the guardians of the land. They're not the owners, they're the guardians. And I think when you start thinking about chopping up farmland without thinking about what you're also messing around with, I think this plan needs a whole lot more work before it's approved, and apparently it's just in the works right now. It's not approved. So it's certainly something to watch for, and I really hope that they make some changes before they pass this.
Okay, thank you. And before we go any further, Mr. Taddison, can you just stay online for about another 2 minutes as we finish this off? Thank you. Okay. We have no more questions or comments. Anyone opposed to us approving this report? Hearing or seeing none, we can have some further discussions afterwards on these things. There is, and that's it. So we have now lost quorum. So, I've never lost quorum before in a meeting. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Member Cridlin.
Thank you through you, Chair Foster. While we're just sort of assessing where we're at, then what I think we've completed, or can I just confirm if we've completed passing all the governance items?
No.
Oh,
we
so
just only
just
10.2.4.
10.2.4. So
Yeah.
thank you. I just wanted to see where we've left off.
Yeah.
We'll just
The other
continue.
three in discussion with the CAO were for receipt, and those can, for all intents and purposes, can be moved on to our next governance meeting. So one was for approval, but it would have taken some time to go through and review that at the governance committee. So
thank you for the clarification.
yeah. And there was one other item that I'd wanted to deal with this morning, and that was voting privileges for the chair at the committee level, and some stuff with that, because it's become pretty obvious the new structure that we have with the board. We got some challenges in and around quorum, and we want to thank the provincial government for providing the opportunity to us to work through these challenges as we move forward. So, with that, I'm going to have to declare that this meeting is complete at this point. Any of the items that are there, we will move on to the appropriate subcommittee and or to our next board. And if there's anything that CAO Charma and the team need in the short term, we'll email it out for board members to be aware of. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. So, now that we don't have quorum, we certainly can still have a discussion on anything that we want, but we simply can't vote on it in any way, shape, or form. So, go ahead, CEO Charma.
Through you, Chair, just a small announcement, good news story from our staff. Our director, Adam Christie, has been blessed with a baby girl, last week. Was it last week? Yeah. So congratulations to him, and we're looking forward to receiving the newest addition to the NPCA family.
Great, thank you. And he has to get himself back in shape for golfing. So it's.
She's not going to be a golfer.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
And Rob, is it volunteer week? Did I miss that it's volunteer week this week?
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to, I don't know if is it volunteer week this week? Or was that last week? Volunteers? No? Okay. I know we've been adjourned. We've been adjourned.
Yeah, Carrie's signaling in the back. Yes, it's volunteer week.
So, just a shout out. I know that'll get added to the clip, but a big thank you to the NPCA volunteer community.
Yeah.
And it grows every single day, and we continue to need it to grow, right, Carrie? Yes. So a big shout out to the team and all the people that are doing the work across the watershed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Good point. Yeah. Anything else anybody wants to say before I adjourn for the second time? Okay, let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.